It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America. We are Red Eye Radio. I am Gary McNamara. Good morning. Hang on, I had a cup of coffee here somewhere. There it is, way over there. Eric's is off here for the rest of the week, which is, well, that's today's show. And then he's back for Sunday night, Monday morning show. Hang on, let me just check. Let me check the coffee with the powdered creamer and the non-sugar sweetener. It's hot. It's okay. It's acceptable. How's everybody doing? Here we go again. What a day it was yesterday. You want to start with the good? It was mostly good. I mean, this was great. Yesterday afternoon, I guess late afternoon, early evening on Fox, where the DOGE team was there. And I'm just going to play this because this is one engineer talking about Social Security. If you've seen it, the whole controversy and the left's going nuts on it. And this is where they're not going to allow, there's going to be fewer people. You've got to prove who you are if you're going to change, where you're getting your direct deposit. That there's a process either of going online or actually having to go to the Social Security office for that. And I guess if you're going to call, there's certain hoops you have to jump through. And, of course, the left has gone crazy saying people that are, that apply for Social Security are doing it, can't do it. They can't do this. They can't do that. They can't do this. The Republicans respond and say, if you want to get a driver's license, you've got to go down. And I was thinking to myself, it's one of the things we've talked about DOGE. They did it, I think it was last week. Was it within the last 10 days where they had one of the engineers for DOGE that was on Fox, and it was great. And we've always said, anything that you do, you've got to market. You got to sell everything. You've got to advertise everything that you do. And the most effective way is to get the people that are actually hands-on. And we had said this back with DOGE, who said, look, they've got a team. They got to show this team. They've got to show these people out there and what they're actually doing. Not the Elon Musk's, excuse me, with an apostrophe in there, or Trump doing it, but the actual people. You want to put a face to these people, the serious people that are actually doing the work every day, because it gives you a completely different impression. Here's one DOGE engineer talking about Social Security and what they found. All right. Now tell me that you can't sell this to America, because you can. Here it is.
I'll say the two improvements that we're trying to make to Social Security are helping people that legitimately get benefits, protecting them from fraud that they experience every day on a routine basis, and also make the experience better. And I'll give you one example is at Social Security, one of the first things we learned is that they get phone calls every day of people trying to change direct deposit information. So when you want to change your bank account, you can call Social Security. We learned 40% of the phone calls that they get are from fraudsters. 40%? That's right. Almost half.
Yes, and they steal people's Social Security is what happens. Is they call in, they say they claim to be a retiree, then they convince the Social Security person on the phone to change where the money's flowing. It actually goes to some fraudster. This is happening all day, every day, and then somebody doesn't receive their Social Security. It's because of all the fraud loopholes in the Social Security system.
There you go. We'll have more because it was quite a long interview. They need to get on more than Fox, though. I mean, you cover the conservative media on it, but you sort of are speaking to the converted at that point. But what you hope to do is the fact of, even if it's just on Fox, you do have the ability to pound social media on it, which is where so many people get their news to begin with. But that's excellent. You hear stuff like that. The average American hears that and says, okay, now I understand. Okay, how do we put the systems in where that doesn't happen? Okay, should you have to prove who you are if you wish to change your bank account? Should there be some type of authentication? Anybody who is doing anything at work now in a computerized system, we have it here. There's the authentication. There's like a 2 or 3 step process to go through it to ensure that there's not fraud. Yeah, we all look at it and go, what a pain in the butt. But the fact is, you've got to protect your system, your computer systems, from fraud. And almost every corporation's doing it. And I'm sure over the last few years, everybody's done it where, okay, for example, if you want to sign into your email and, every month or every 2 weeks, whatever, you'll have to re-sign into it. And you have to put in your password and everything else. And then once you do it, they send a code to your cell phone, or they send a link to your cell phone, either through text or an email, whatever. And that way you authenticate it at that particular point. Any one of us with any of our bank accounts now, number one, most people have a code to get into their phone to begin with, but that's not good enough for most people. Then if you want to get into your banking app, you've got a certain PIN number that you put in order to get there. You have your username and your PIN, whatever. And now you see it on so many banks. You can set up a system where you can then get a code sent to your email or text to you, and you either click the link or put in another code, and then boom, you get in. And so that's common practice now. And I know, for example, my dad, who's 99, and I get to see him tomorrow, which is going to be great. He'll be 99 in 2 weeks. He doesn't do all the computer stuff. He's still write the check, send it in, but most people don't do that anymore. And so the Democrats jumped on this like crazy. They're making it harder. See, they're destroying Social Security, when, of course, that's not what they're doing. But when you do what they do there, and it's not just Elon Musk, you don't want the same people always promoting the same thing. There's a burnout factor if they're the only ones doing it. But having Elon Musk in there, and then the actual engineers that discovered the problem, and you see them all sitting there together, and you see the cooperation, you're like, oh, okay, this thing is actually organized. Because that's the one thing they're doing. You're just taking, you just need to be taking a scalpel to this. You don't need to be just axing everything off. You're just chopping it left and right, and you're not paying attention to anything, as if it's just complete insanity when it's not. And so I think that's a great thing that they did, and we'll have more audio cuts, from that coming up. Plus, the Tim Walz Beto rally that happened in Texas. We will get to that. Here's one thing. We'll get into some of the audio on it, but the left going crazy. I think the story is there's, let me just see, the story of how many people have been deported that have been, pro-Hamas. I think it was 100 or something like that. I'll get to that. I'll get to the story. I don't want to be going through all my papers here. And the left, there was a video of that the one woman who just walking down the street, and they were waiting for her at the college. And she was involved in some of the pro-Hamas stuff, and they came right out of their SUV. She was walking down the street and grabbed her, and the university's throwing a fit. Massachusetts is throwing a fit. And here's all I have to say about that. We will go through, and I believe that they're doing the right thing. If you're not an American citizen, you do not have the same due process rights as an American. You have some due process rights under the Constitution, but you have no right to stay in this country, because you would never have gotten your initial visa if you had told immigration what you had planned on doing. Well, no, you would have got it under the Biden administration, but under most administrations in the history of the United States, if you want to promote an enemy of the United States, I want to go to school here and I want to promote this, you'd never get the visa to begin with. But here's just one simple, blunt message. There's a story right there. Feds lost track of tens of thousands of unaccompanied children after their release. That's from the Inspector General of the Department of Homeland Security. We know the figures go anywhere from, we've heard anywhere from 100 to 300,000 kids. They just didn't know where they went. They lost track of them. Did you hear one Democrat scream about the fact that the Biden administration didn't give a damn if these children, ended up being abused, being put in the sex trade? Did you hear anything? Did you hear any outrage from any Democrat? I'm telling you, Eric and I talked about this. We don't remember one. We don't remember one Democrat coming out and saying, this is completely unacceptable. They say they give a damn about the children. Nobody cared about the children from the Democrat side. No one. You didn't hear a peep. It was like, no, that's just a part of it. If children end up missing, that's okay with us. But doggone it, we're going to defend these people who are not American citizens, who are promoting a terrorist group that is an enemy of the United States. We must defend those people and their free speech rights. The children missing, we don't give a damn. Well, then you've lost all credibility. What you think means diddly and squat. Hey, we got a great show coming up today. We really do. Just more tons of audio, and maybe I'll play Mr. Rogers again. I got so much response. I wasn't going to put it on. I was not going to put it on my X page. If I would have thought of it, but I just hadn't thought about it. I just had played the audio cut. The listeners started pounding me, saying, "Hey, you got to take that. You got to post that." Oh man, I'm telling you, I got so much response on that. So we may play that again, and if you want to check it out at Gary Red Eye 1, that's at Gary Red Eye 1. And just to give you a little background on it, it was Representative Ro Khanna at the PBS, taxpayer funding of PBS and NPR, that was just bragging about, Mr. Rogers and Mr. Rogers and Mr. Rogers and Mr. Rogers and Mr. Rogers. And the Media Research Center posted that. And then they said, would the left accept this from Mr. Rogers for taxpayer funding of PBS? And it was Mr. Rogers singing a song about how girls are always girls and can't change. Or boys are always boys and can't change. Only women can have babies. I mean, it's just great stuff. But you can check it out if you want. That was it was just a highlight of my week because we played it a few times on the air, and we'll play it again. We played it a few times on the air. Just were laughing so hard. And everybody got the same kick out of it that we did. So that and more on the way. We got a great show ahead. 866-90-RED-EYE.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. It's not always easy to spring back from the harsh days of winter to warmer months ahead. From de-icing chemicals to hidden debris underneath snow and ice, winter conditions can do serious damage to your truck. Here's a must-do maintenance check to help you minimize downtime and stay rolling. Make sure your fluids are at proper levels ahead of spring. Fluid is to trucks what blood is to the human body. Low fluid can be just as harmful as no fluid, and the damage this will cause to your truck is unavoidable. Pay attention to your engine oil, coolant levels, power steering fluid, transmission fluid, brake fluid, and differential fluid.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. We are Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. Eric has the morning off. All right, here's the audio that we played yesterday. We played it, I think, starting in the middle of the show. So if you are somebody who listens to the first part, you might have missed it. But again, this was Representative Ro Khanna on the hearing this week with the presidents of NPR and PBS talking about taxpayer dollars. And this is just greatness. Media Research Center put this together and said, since Democrats like Representative Ro Khanna and others are using Mr. Rogers as a defense to fund PBS and NPR with taxpayer dollars, well, then do they also endorse this video from him? Here it is. Here's the back and forth. And then they insert the video from Mr. Rogers.
Really don't know?
No, I really don't. I'm on the oath.
All of history. It's a successor to Mr. Rogers.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Rogers, I know.
Okay. Are you familiar with his 1969 testimony?
I am.
He said, I want to quote, because it's one of my favorites. I studied this actually going to school. It's some of the most effective testimony in Congress. He said, I give an expression of care every day to each child to help him realize that he is unique. I end the program by saying, you've made this day a special day by just being you. There's no person in the whole world like you, and I like you just the way you are.
Boys are boys from the beginning. If you were born a boy, you stay a boy. Girls are girls right from the start. If you were born a girl, you stay a girl and grow up to be a lady. Everybody's fancy. Everybody's fine. Your body's fancy, and so is mine. Only girls can be the mommies. Only boys can be the daddies. Yes, sir. Everybody's fancy. Everybody's fine. Your body's fancy, and so is mine.
All right, now the only problem I have with it, I don't know if I should be a little bit uncomfortable when he says my body is fancy. All right, that's the only thing. I might need some clarification on that from his estate. No, I'm sorry. That's just so great. I could just sit here and play that in a loop for the rest of the show. I don't know. You might sit there and go, okay, Gary, move on. But I'd be enjoying every moment of it. So yeah, we posted that on our my X page at Gary Red Eye 1, and the other one I did get requests after the show for the article that we read. And normally I don't like to read articles on the air, but sometimes it's just so good we do. And this was from American Thinker, and it was, we can cure democracy, but can we cure stupid? And I got so much of a request for it that I posted it. And you can look at that also at Gary Red Eye 1. So we'll get to that. And coming up here, we'll get to, the hearing yesterday in the Senate about immigration here in the United States. The Attorney General saying the Department of Justice will not enter into any plea negotiations with the Las Vegas Tesla firebomber. We'll have more with the engineering team from DOGE, which Brett Baer had a long, I think it was like a half-hour interview, so we'll be playing clips of that throughout the show. And there was another one. Oh, yeah, since we had played Representative Ro Khanna. He was on CNBC, and the anchor actually said, "Are you out of your mind?" Oh, just a great audio. We've got so much audio today, so it's going to be a fun show. Plus your calls and comments, too, if you want to get in, 866-90-RED-EYE.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live at night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome. He's Eric Harley. He has the morning off. All right, I found the other audio I wanted to play here. This is, since we had played Representative Ro Khanna and the whole Mr. Rogers audio. This is when Ro Khanna was on Squawk Box on CNBC and talked about Medicare being efficient. Here we go.
Yeah, those are, the same arguments that Democrats and Republicans have been having forever. But in fact, I just tweeted something out that said that fraud, waste, and abuse is probably the biggest bipartisan thing that we have. That it's not specific to what my policies are or what my politics are. If it's being levied by the federal government, it probably is inefficient because there's no reason for it not to be.
Well, there's certain things that are not inefficient. Medicare, the Social Security,
What?
large parts of
Medicare's not inefficient. Come on. Are you out of your mind? Medicare? And I'm not saying it's Medicare's fault necessarily. Look around and look at the way Medicare is gamed out by the people that benefit from it, or Medicaid.
I just love it the way he said, "Are you out of your mind?" I mean, that kind of blunt talk. Look, when you bring up things that, and that's not even the most radical thing that people on the left are saying. But yeah, you got to say things like that. You've got to sit there and you've got to be blunt. So I thought that was just superb. That was just pure greatness. You know, before we go any further, I was just, did you see where, and again, a lot of younger people may have no idea who this person is, but you just see where singer and actor Bobby Sherman, stage 4 cancer. And I started thinking about it yesterday. You know, you think about Bobby Sherman. I remember as a kid, and I mean, he was in what was the show? Here Come the Brides. And I was never really into it. But he had in that period, he was a huge teen idol. I mean, he had, I think, at least 3 major hit songs in a period of a couple of years. This guy was incredibly popular. And after that, next thing you know, he becomes a paramedic. And I started thinking about the actors that did that, you know, from that time and even afterwards. Ken Osmond, the late Ken Osmond, Eddie Haskell on Leave It to Beaver, who became a police officer. And it seemed to them to be just such a smooth transition. And then I talked about this once on the air when it happened back, I think it was last October. You might not have heard me talk about it because a lot of people, it's very tough unless you're working overnight because a lot of people go to sleep listening to us and a lot of people wake up. But we love the people that stay all 5 hours, but you might not have heard this story. I was on a plane last October, and I'm in the jet bridge, and I'm going to Buffalo to see Dad. And I wasn't on the jet bridge yet. I was standing right outside getting ready, for them, to board. And I look, and there's these people staring at me. And I thought they were staring at me. They weren't. They were staring at the guy next to me. And I'm looking, I go, okay, are they looking at me? Well, who's around me? I look, I go, oh, that guy looks familiar. And he turned to me and he said, hey, how you doing? And I said, not bad. I said, tired. I can't wait to get to sleep. And he goes, oh, man, I can tell you. I said, I'm shooting a commercial all day here in Dallas, and now I'm headed to, the Comic-Con in Buffalo. And I look and I'm like, okay, you look familiar. I'm saying it to myself. And all of a sudden I look and I say, wait a minute, hold it. I think I know who this guy is. And I'm thinking, I go, I remember him. Wait a minute. Hold it. Wait a minute. Hold it. Who is this guy? And I look, and it's Punch from, as we all know, from Chips, the actor who played Punch. And for some reason, I have mind blank here at the moment of his name. Oh, jeez. Let me see. Actor who played Punch. We're actually putting this in here because I have mind blank at the moment. Eric Estrada. It came to me before it even came up on Google. Eric Estrada. And I look and I said, "Oh, you are Eric?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "So you're not going to retire?" I said, "You got to be a couple of years older than me." And we told each other our ages. And he said, "Yeah." And he said, "You're not retiring?" I went, "Nah." And I didn't tell him what we did for a while, but then the jet bridge was it took 10 minutes to get in, and we just had a great conversation, not about his celebrity, but just about working in general. So get on the plane, and I'm in my seat and everything else, and the plane's probably been in the air for about 45 minutes, and he's in the seat in front of me, aisle row. He gets up, turns around, and starts talking to me, and we talked the rest of the flight. And people were coming up. I mean, he's still that well known where he was getting people coming up looking for autographs. And he, did it, and he looked, and he just goes, "The price of celebrity." And I told him, I said, "Well, at that time," I said, because Chips ran into the 80s, and I said, "I remember Elvis, Elvis died in 1977. And I said, "You were like Elvis. I mean, you were that popular. You were that well known." And we just had a great discussion. He's actually still in law enforcement. He wanted to be in law enforcement. He actually told me, he said, the reason I acted was to support my mother. That's why I did it. But I wanted law enforcement. And he has had a career in law enforcement while still being an actor celebrity for the last, 45 years? And I just find it amazing. I just find it amazing that and the transition, that's the incredible thing. The transition for them was really, really pretty smooth. So I thought about that yesterday, and I just went, wow, that's great. But Bobby Sherman, who was just huge, ended up being a first responder. Ken Osmond, a police officer who was shot in the line of duty. Ken Osmond, Eddie Haskell from the original Leave It to Beaver. And then the same with Eric Estrada. It was like, wow. But I just thought about that. I mean, I really don't have anywhere else to go on that. And the other thing is, we got into a conversation this week about, being a conservative and DOGE and everything else, and people saying, well, all you want to do is cut, you want to take benefits away. And I said, that's not the case. And I've always taken it, I told the story of my dad, who just hated the term compassionate conservatism when it came out from Bush. He just hated that. He said, being a conservative, you are compassionate. He said, what you're looking for is the efficient use of dollars, and government isn't the way to go. And my father was always involved in private charities. And I just want to tell you this one story about a listener of ours here on Red Eye, and a listener to me before I even became on Red Eye, who passed away recently. And she was a beautiful woman. And I never met her. But years ago, we started, she'd write me, and like a lot of listeners do, and it was on politics. And it's over 20 years that we had corresponded. Never met her. And we talked about politics. And then later on, when I rescued the cat from outside the studio, she's the one that wrote me and said, if you're going to take this cat, you have to understand this is a commitment and it's a responsibility. And I'll just say her initials, KD, because I didn't get permission from the family or anything. I had found out, just the last couple of days that she had passed away and the funeral was over. So I had never gotten permission to use her name and talk about it. And I just don't do that, but I'll just say KD. And as conservative as you can get. As conservative as you can get. And you might remember me referencing her. And this goes back to April of 2020. the biggest Trump fan you could possibly imagine. And she's the one that wrote me in April of 2020 and said, Trump needs to stop. He needs to stop with these press conferences for COVID. He's going to lose the election if he doesn't stop it. And that's when I went, whoa, because you could not have found a bigger Trump fan. And she just said, that has to stop. And we would talk politics, extremely articulate. This person in a multitude of businesses and everything else. And she wrote me one day to tell me a story, and she said, not to virtue signal or not to brag, but I thought it was the greatest story about how conservatives that I know, how they think. And I wanted to mention it. I thought, even if I, can't give her, haven't been given permission to give her full name, I will tell her this particular story because it's one of the most mind-boggling stories for me. I get chills when I think about it. She said, I just need to tell you this because I just need to tell somebody, not to virtue signal or brag in any way, but just to let you know, and a few of my family members and friends that I trust, how much happiness this brought me. She managed a lot of properties, owned a lot of properties, owned homes, apartment complexes, and everything else. And there was this one couple that for years had rented a home from her. And so she calculated all the principal and interest that would be on an average mortgage. And when they paid it off, not really paid it off, they were just paying rent. But when she figured out the amount of them paying off, she called them and said, yeah, I need to come over and talk with you. She said, I thought maybe they might be a little nervous, wondering why I'm coming over. Am I kicking them out of the house after whatever it was, 15 years, 20 years, whatever? She shows up, gives them the title to the house. And the funny thing is, when she told me it, I knew. When she told me that, I knew it wasn't virtue signaling, and I knew it wasn't she was trying to brag or prove to me that she was a great person. She just said it brought me so much happiness to do that, to see the look on their face. And she said, I just wanted to relate that to you. So I just wanted to mention that because just a dear, dear listener who passed away a couple of weeks ago. And I wanted to make sure that I just mentioned it because it's really amazing. You don't know. I mean, you do this every single day, and you don't know what you actually communicate to people and what they digest. Sometimes you do when people start saying, wow, I can't believe you did this or did that. I go, oh, that's right. I'm on the radio. People are actually listening. She wrote me when my mom died, the nicest thing you could ever imagine. And when the cat that I rescued, Mango, and everybody remembers Mango, rescued from outside the Red Eye Radio studios. I was never a pet owner, and that made me a pet owner from that day on. And when he passed on right in front of me, had basically a aneurysm, stroke, whatever, and just was there one moment and then gone right in front of my eyes. She wrote me the nicest letter about everything that she knew that I did, which I talked about on the air. And when I read the whole thing, I went, my God, I really let a lot of my life out on the radio, and people actually absorb it, and it was just the nicest thing. So rest in peace, KD. I just wanted to mention it. What a great listener and what a great person she has been. Rest in peace. 866-98 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. He is Eric Harley, and he has the morning off, but he returns for Sunday night, Monday morning show. We've got so much to talk about. The Senate talking about anti-Semitism. and illegal immigration and everything that goes along with that. Really interesting. Some of the Josh Hawley back and forth with the Democrat witness was just classic stuff. We'll tell you about the steelmaker here in the United States laying off 600 employees at the Michigan plant due to weak auto demand. As the president, we now know, I mean, as we've talked about the president being inconsistent in his messaging on tariffs. Was it fentanyl? Is it fentanyl? Is it permanent? What is it? He made it clear yesterday that the auto tariffs, doesn't matter what you do, it's going to be permanent. And he has broken if he initiates it next week, then he has broken USMCA. So that's gone. So we'll get into that and more, all on the way. 866-90 Red Eye.
Top of the hour news is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley. He has a morning off. I'm Gary McNamara. I've got one complaint. The show is interfering with the entertainment I'm getting from listening to various audio cuts here. So let me bring you in to some of this entertainment. I was just watching the very short interview with Jasmine Crokett and Hillary Vaughn from Fox News. She's chasing her down the hallway and asking her about, are you going to apologize to the Texas governor for basically calling him Hot Wheels, making fun of his disability? It's just great. Here we go.
I saw your comment explaining your comment calling Governor Abbott Hot Wheels. I put out a statement regarding that. You didn't apologize. I put out a statement. Why would I apologize when I put out a statement? My statement was clear. But you didn't apologize for calling him Governor Hot Wheels when he gets around in a wheelchair. I don't know how that's offensive. I don't understand. Who have a disability need me to repeat this to you. Right, but why won't you apologize? I put out a statement. They didn't have an apology. So read my statement. I did read it. It didn't have an apology. Okay, well, I'm done. You don't feel bad about making fun of someone who is in a wheelchair?
And if you couldn't hear everything, Hillary Vaughn was asking her, why don't you apologize? I put out a statement. Yes, but there was no apology in the statement. So you didn't apologize. I put out a statement, but there's no apology in the statement. I put out the statement, but there's no apology in the statement. Why would I apologize if I put out the statement? Because there was no apology in the statement. Okay, I'm done with you. And she turns around and walks away. Just, she is the gift that keeps on giving. I mean, yes, I do wake up every morning saying to myself, if I had just bought that house 4 blocks west of me. Oh, not house. That piece of land 4 blocks west of me that I was looking at 19 and a half years ago. Darn, if I would have I wouldn't be in her district. Now, I want everybody to know, when I built my house, it was a Republican district. Redistricting changed it. I'm not going to have to move. I'm not going to move. She's going to have to get out of office. Oh, my gosh. She is just the gift that keeps on giving, and I'm telling you, I love every moment of it. You know what I noticed yesterday? And maybe the talking point went out. One of the things we've always said is you've got to talk about the Democrats. When you say their policies are insane, you need to explain why they're insane. The radical transgender movement isn't a hard one. A man cannot be a woman because the man says so. End of story. If you believe otherwise, that is an insane opinion. One of the things now that the White House is using is the Democrats trying to defend not deporting Venezuelan gang members. And Josh Hawley yesterday with a Democrat witness on anti-Semitism on campus and people from not from the United States who are here on visas, with pro-Hamas opinions being part of the riots and taking over buildings and everything else, and the Democrats wishing to die on that hill of defending them. But they're using the word insane. The Democrats' insane policies, and then they explain why they're insane. Some are self-evident. What was the poll we saw? It's 2/3 of Americans want to deport the Venezuelan gang members. What the hell are you talking about? That means that 33% don't. 33% believe gang members should be allowed in the United States. We got a problem there. And I think it was 43% of Democrats. But here is Josh Hawley grilling the Democratic witness who opposes deporting Mahmoud Khalil. Here we go.
And I've got to correct numerous inaccuracies there. Number one, as you very well know, United States law says that a non-citizen is inadmissible for entry into this country if they, and I quote, endorse or espouse terrorist activity or persuade others to do the same. That same law provides you can be removed for the same reasons. That is what Mr. Khalil has been accused of. He has further been accused of by the United States government lying on his visa application. That on its own would be sufficient to remove him from this country. He is being sued as you and I sit here in New York court by the victims of October 7th for terrorizing and assaulting Jewish students, unlawfully taking over and damaging public university property, and physically assaulting Columbia University employees. And you're telling me that it's McCarthyism to remove this individual?
Senator, the deportation was started before that lawsuit, before that second question about what he was saying on his forms.
No, this is what the government has alleged in open court, Mr. Stern. This is the basis for their removal proceedings. And our law makes clear if you endorse or espouse terrorist activity, you can be removed from this country. He has done so. He's been accused of doing so from the beginning. He's been accused of lying to get into the country. I'm amazed that you're saying that this is McCarthyism.
Senator, you weren't here when I quoted part of what Justice Brandeis was talking about the back at a case where there's somebody that was convicted for supporting the Communist Party because they were talking about violence as a political solution. And Brandeis cautioned us that this type of robust speech, as long...
This isn't speech. Lying on a visa application is not speech. Seeking to assault Columbia University employees and Jewish students is not speech. You are defending an individual who has espoused the destruction of this country, the destruction of the state of Israel, the destruction of Jews, and has taken actions in furtherance of the same. You've also said that investigating the 60 colleges and universities that are currently under investigation by the Trump administration for anti-Semitism is a form of weaponizing anti-Semitism for political benefit. You're opposed to investigating these institutions for anti-Semitism?
Senator, I've been very clear that OCR has a very important role, that there are complaints that should go through the process. When you start using the Department of Justice and threatening universities' funding.
You are opposed, I just want to get this on the record, you are opposed to investigating Columbia University and others for anti-Semitism?
No.
That's what you said 6 days ago.
I am not opposed to doing it the right way.
What does that mean, doing it the right way?
Not to claw back funds, not to say we're holding you ransom. We're getting your faculty, Jewish...
You were asked about an investigation for failing to protect Jewish students, and you said that's just weaponizing anti-Semitism. It makes students less safe.
It is when the
I think that's
Department of
crazy.
Justice has a list of places they want to go to. The Senator Markey's question...
Oh, I heard Senator Markey's questions. I heard his whole speech. I thought it was insane. I just want to say for the record, I thought it was totally insane. And I think your positions are similarly insane. I think the idea that we would bend over backwards to hug and kiss and make nice to a pro-Hamas rioter, because that's what Khalil is, and that we would say, we can't remove him, and that makes Jewish students less safe on our campuses? That's nuts.
Senator,
that's nuts.
To Rabbi Saberstein's point, if you look at American history, the times when Jews were most vulnerable was during the Palmer raids in World War I, when there was political...
Jews are vulnerable now on our campuses because of people like Khalil, and I want to say for the record, I'm glad he's gone, and I hope he never comes back.
It's a hill they want to die on. It's amazing. Wow. And nothing, not a peep from Democrats, not a peep with the tens of thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands of unaccompanied minors that came into the country and they lost track of them. They didn't even have addresses. They had nothing. And we know about the allegations of, breaking child labor laws, of sex trafficking, which we know exists. Not one peep from any Democrat. When that was going on, when that first came out, Eric and I specifically paid attention to see, is any Democrat going to come out and say, look, we want more people to be able to come into the country, and we should bring in more people, and they can stay in the country while we figure out whether they have a legit, visa argument or whatever. But we need to do something with the unaccompanied children. They didn't even do that. They just didn't say anything about children. Where they just said, to hell, just send them somewhere. We don't give a damn about the children. Just send them somewhere. We don't have addresses. We don't know how to contact them. If they never report, they're just missing and exploited. And not one Democrat cared. Now Democrats are jumping up and saying, this is absolutely wrong what you're doing. You're not going to win that argument ever. By the way, Secretary of State Marco Rubio said as many as 300 foreign students have had their visas revoked. Rubio confirmed the number of revoked visas when speaking at a press conference. Maybe more. It might be more than 300 at this point. We do it every day. Every time I find one of these lunatics, I take away their visa. Rubio said he hopes the numbers rise as time goes on. I hope some point we run out because we've gotten rid of all of them, but we're looking every day for these lunatics that are tearing things up. The policy revoking the visa stems from Trump's January 20th executive order, which says it is the policy of the United States to protect its citizens from aliens who intend to commit terrorist acts, threaten our national security, espouse hateful ideology, or otherwise exploit the immigration laws for malevolent purposes. There you go. As noted by Politico, Rubio was commenting on the visas being revoked while responding to the question of a Tufts University student from Turkey who had her student visa revoked this week. The viral video posted online by officials of the State Department showed her being detained on the street by Immigration and Customs Enforcement officers near the university. They were waiting for her. You could tell they were waiting for her. They were there when she walked down the street is when they got her. Sorry, you don't have the same rights as American citizens when it comes to that. You can you imagine? Do you think you could get anywhere? I remember a couple of years ago where Canada said that anybody who immigrates to Canada, the vast majority, it was like 70%, 75% of Canadians, said that if you immigrate there, you have to have Canadian values. This is a given. You don't if you put on your visa, I want to stay in your country and I want to support enemies of your country, you're not getting in. And if you lie on your application to do so, you're not getting in. That's not a hill to die on. But the Democrats wish to do so. 866-90-RED-I.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max. After fuel, an owner-operator's second biggest variable cost is tires. To save, get as much life out of them as possible with good habits. Maintain proper inflation. It's free and easy, yet it's the highest saving maintenance you can perform on the truck. Improper inflation is by far the greatest reason tires fail early. Perform routine maintenance. If a technician can by hand initiate irregular movements in tie rod ends, kingpins, wheel bearings, and torque rods, that spells trouble. Fight irregular wear by replacing suspension components. On the steer axle, change your shocks at least as often as you change your tires. On the drive axle, replace shocks halfway through the tire's life, and when the tires are changed too. Finally, employ good driving habits. You have full control here. More conservative driving over rough surfaces helps reduce wear. Speeding, hard braking, curbing, and tight turns cause tires to wear fast. On the other hand, steady acceleration, braking, and steering can extend the life, saving a bundle. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section on the website for more details on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-I on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Eric has the morning off. I don't. I have to work here on this Friday. Man, I could have used a 3-day weekend. No, it wouldn't be as much fun. I had mentioned I'd read part of the transcript of Marco Rubio. I just found the audio cut as I was scanning through some things here. Here's Marco Rubio yesterday.
We revoked her visa. It's an F1 visa, I believe. We revoked it, and here's why. And I'll say it again. I said it everywhere. Let me be abundantly clear, okay? If you go apply for a visa right now, anywhere in the world, let me just send this message out. If you apply for a visa to enter the United States and be a student, and you tell us that the reason why you're coming to the United States is not just because you want to write op-eds, but because you want to participate in movements that are involved in doing things like vandalizing universities, harassing students, taking over buildings, creating a ruckus, we're not going to give you a visa. If you lie to us and get a visa and then enter the United States and with that visa participate in that sort of activity, we're going to take away your visa. And once you've lost your visa, you're no longer legally in the United States, and we have a right, like every country in the world has a right, to remove you from our country. So it's just that simple. I think it's crazy. I think it's stupid for any country in the world to welcome people into their country that are going to go to your universities as visitors. They're visitors. And say, I'm going to your universities to start a riot. I'm going to your universities to take over a library and harass people. I don't care what movement you're involved in. Why would any country in the world allow people to come and disrupt? Now, we gave you a visa to come and study and get a degree, not to become a social activist that tears up our university campuses. And if we've given you a visa and then you decide to do that, we're going to take it away. I encourage every country to do that, by the way, because I think it's crazy to invite students into your country that are coming onto your campus and destabilizing it. We're just not going to have it. So we'll revoke your visa, and once your visa is revoked, you're illegally in the country and you have to leave. Every country in the world has a right to decide who comes in as a visitor and who doesn't. If you invite me into your home because you say, I want to come to your house for dinner, and I go to your house and I start putting mud on your couch and spray painting your kitchen, I bet you're going to kick me out. Well, we're going to do the same thing if you come into the United States as a visitor and create a ruckus for us. We don't want it. We don't want it in our country. Go back and do it in your country. But
where's the weak point of that argument? As I said, Democrats complaining about this, yet not a peep. And it came out yesterday. A new report, Department of Homeland Security, Inspector General found that U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement is unable to effectively monitor the location and status of each unaccompanied alien child who comes into the U.S. illegally and is released from custody. The Inspector General said in a report that between the fiscal years of 2019 and 2023, ICE transferred over 448,000 unaccompanied minors into the custody of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. From there, most of the unaccompanied children were released to sponsors, but over 31,000 of those children were released to addresses that were left blank, had missing apartment numbers, or were not deliverable. The IG also noted ICE did not know the location of unaccompanied minors who fled while in HHS custody. An investigation into the matter found that ICE did not issue notices to appear to all the unaccompanied minors, which had generated assignment of immigration court dates by the Department of Justice. Of the unaccompanied minors who were served those notices to appear before October of 2024, 43,000 failed to appear for their scheduled court dates, and not a peep from Democrats. Nothing.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Kernen. I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. Living in the bubble of today. We've often talked about that, how the left does that on a consistent basis. Let us go to The View this week and Joy Behar, okay? And listen to her comment and see whether you agree with her or not.
They also have a tendency to blame the Biden administration. It's like, move on. That ship has sailed. I never remember in my lifetime a sitting president trashing a previous president. I've never heard that before.
Anybody have a good memory out there? I know I do, and if Eric was here, I'd probably ask him, Eric, did you ever witness another American president ever blaming the previous administration because Joy Behar claims it never happened? Well, since we don't live in the bubble of today and we actually have memories that have not, I couldn't remember Eric Estrada's name last hour, and since we actually have memories that aren't pot damaged, we do remember that it seems like, the smartest president ever blamed his predecessor well into his second term. So, not that, Trump hasn't, looked at, because what Biden did, and as we've said, Biden to me was one of the worst presidents ever in the history of the United States, because he put in policies to purposely hurt Americans. And a lot of the stuff, everything you're seeing now, and they're saying, well, why do you have to deport these students? Because the Biden administration let them in. There is no other answer. Well, why are you going after the border the way that you are? Why are you going after these schools and taking away their money? Because the Biden administration wanted to fund colleges that were anti-Semitic. But I do remember another president by the name of Barack Obama who could not stop talking about George W. Bush well into his second term. So it wasn't 2 months. It wasn't 4 months. It wasn't 6 months. It wasn't a year. It wasn't 2 years. It wasn't 3 years. It wasn't 4 years. It wasn't 5 years. It was well into his second term that Obama was still blaming George W. Bush. So I wonder if, and that's not defamatory, so I wonder if she had to do a legal note on that one. Meanwhile, the story in the Wall Street Journal, suing Hamas's campus cheerleaders. Thousands of people in Gaza, and this is true. This is not reported by conservative media. The left really hasn't covered it much. Thousands of people in Gaza risked their lives to protest Hamas for 3 days this week. chanting Hamas out. Support for Hamas rose among Gazans after the October 7th massacre, but the long war seems to be hurting its appeal. Not so among Gaza defenders in the West. Here, the pro-quote, and they have the quote, pro-Palestinian, end of quote, camp doesn't protest Hamas. Instead, many protest leaders have embraced the terrorists who started the war and prolonged it by holding hostages. A new lawsuit by Jewish students and Israeli victims of Hamas alleges that the leaders of Columbia University's protest encampment are a propaganda arm of Hamas. That sounds more like rhetoric than law until one realizes the protest groups saw themselves the same way. And Hamas saw them the same way, too. A rescued hostage is a plaintiff. Shlomi Ziv, captors bragged about having Hamas operatives on American university campuses, the suit says. They showed him Al Jazeera stories and photographs of the protest at Columbia. All sides know Hamas's strategy depends on such protest and pressure. National Students for Justice for Palestine sent a pamphlet to its campus chapters on October 8th, 2023, to advertise a day of resistance. It depicts a Hamas paraglider alongside student protesters. I remember that. We talked about that, and I believe we posted that also. It depicts a Hamas paraglider alongside student protesters, all waging the same struggle. That is the theory of the lawsuit. The pamphlet came in a toolkit that followed Hamas's propaganda instructions, the plaintiffs allege. The resistance in Gaza launched a surprise operation. Every SJP chapter was told, today we witness a historic win for the Palestinian resistance. Glory to our resistance. Well, the resistance is chiefly Hamas, which is an acronym for the Islamic Resistance Movement. The toolkit tells its members to normalize the resistance and join the unity intifada in which all Palestinian factions in Gaza appear to be participating under unified command of Hamas. Students are part of this movement, not in solidarity with this movement. Hamas says the students protesting are part of this movement, not in solidarity. They're part of it. At Columbia, the Students for Justice in Palestine celebrated October 7th the next day. Yesterday was an unprecedented historic moment for the Palestinians of Gaza, who tore through the wall, it wrote. After the campus group was suspended, the plaintiffs alleged it operated at Columbia University as Columbia University apartheid divest. They marked October 7, 2024 with the headline, 1 year since the revolution until victory, and called the massacre a moral, military, and political victory. Wow. Whether that renders them liable for aiding Hamas is a tricky question. The precedent is the case brought by Hamas front groups by the parents of David Boehm, a 17-year-old American killed by Hamas in 1996. In 2004, the Islamic Association of Palestine was ordered to pay them damages for providing material support for Hamas terrorism. The group disbanded instead of paying, but the Boehms alleged it regrouped as American Muslims for Palestine with many of the same leaders and the same Hamas mission. And then they just go on and on and on and say the Boehms will have a choice to prove their allegations as this litigation continues. Their case will spawn new lawsuits so long as Israel haters in the West align with Hamas. As we said, the whole, quote, pro-Palestinian movement is pro-Hamas. There is no other way to look at it. Palestinians are controlled by Hamas. The Palestinians, the vast majority, even with these protests, the vast majority in all the polls, the polls taken by both sides show great support for Hamas. So the point is, this lawsuit is one thing, but students that come over here on a visa and protest that, gone. Get out. And the fact that the Democrats are fighting this shows you how insane and radical they are. And so it's important for the White House every single day and Congress, the Republican Congress, to pound on this every single day, because Democrats can't win this. Think about it. Democrats are supporting criminal illegal immigrants. They are supporting gang member illegal immigrants. And they are supporting students here on a visa that are supporting a terrorist group and an enemy of the United States. Sorry. You're gone. And you know something? You don't get to come back either. And by throwing out all this, well, freedom of speech, they don't have the same freedom of speech. They're not American citizens. These are visitors. You don't have the same rights as a visitor, as a citizen of the United States. That's the law. If you don't like it, change the law. Yeah, try changing that law. try that one. I wish to put in legislation where all the rights to anybody who is in this country as a visitor is the same as an American citizen. Well, you can't do that because they're not an American citizen. And the Bill of Rights is about American citizens. But no, the law is absolutely clear on all of this, and the administration and the Republicans need to keep going and explain it the way that they have. Explain it the way that they have. Challenge these people. Debate these people, because you're going to win it every single time. They can't win this argument, but everything that they say must be cross-examined. When they say something, you got to cross-examine it. You got to say, that's not true. That's a lie. Sorry, freedom of speech does not apply to somebody who is visiting the country. If you're visiting the country, you do not get, if you are not a citizen of the United States, you do not get the same rights as a citizen of the United States. And when you're a visitor and your goal is to come over here, one of your goals is to come over here and support enemies of the United States, you don't get to stay. You know something? These are the kind of shows when I have to talk about stuff like this, and Eric and I talk about it, where I feel like, what a waste of time. You know, everybody knows this, but everybody doesn't know it. And so you've got to say it. And they make the same stupid arguments, so you got to make the same solid argument back to defeat their stupid argument. There's no choice in it. But I'm sitting here saying, I can't believe I'm talking like this. I can't believe I have to explain this. I mean, you know it. We all know it. But it's got to be used. You've got to use this defense because it's the same defense for their insanity. But I'm glad to see that both the White House and members of Congress are now looking at, Republican members of Congress are now looking at the Democrats and saying, you're insane on this. This is absolutely insane. Because it is. And the average American will look at it just like they do the radical transgender movement and say, that's insane. And they'll look at it just like they do identity politics and say judging people by groups and not individuals, that's racism. Racism is so wrong and so stupid and so false. The identity politics that you practice of judging people by groups and individuals, that's insane too. And we're not going to accept that in the United States of America. Make that clear. Pound it every single day. 866-90 Red Eye.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
We are Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. Eric Harley is off, but he is back for Sunday night, Monday morning's show. Man, it's just getting more interesting and more interesting. Excuse me. Coming up following the top of the hour, we will get to the interview, and we'll break it up because it was a pretty long interview. We'll break it up into different segments here. Elon Musk and his DOGE team. It's something that they need to do. You need to promote the daylights out of it because as soon as you mention something, you got to be ready to defend it. And you need the people that are actually doing it to be in the media. Now, you're probably not going to be able to get CNN to cover something like this. Maybe they will. But you need to do what Fox News did yesterday, and you need to promote it on social media because, for example, on Social Security, you just had people go crazy. They're making it harder now for senior citizens. Right? That's not the point. Here's the point. Here's what we're doing. Here's the fraud. And so we'll get to all that coming up. Plus, we'll tell you about the red state that makes a major announcement trying to get rid of the income tax. Major League Baseball removes DEI and diversity program references. Who was it also? Was it the University of Michigan also getting rid of their DEI, slowly falling apart? You know, we had said this a long time ago about DEI. We said, well, the problem with DEI is it's racist. That's the whole problem with it. It's racist. And it's going to run up against the laws that already exist in the federal government. And there's going to be lawsuits, and it's going to end it. Well, as we see, it's slowly going away.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. Eric has the morning off. It's you and me. All right, we're going to get to a ton of audio that we have here and plus stories that we want to make sure we get to. There it is right there. University of Michigan announces it's closing its DEI offices due to Trump's executive orders. University of Michigan announced it will be closing its doors to DEI. They did it yesterday. In a message to the university, the president and other top leaders said, due to recent executive orders from President Donald Trump, as well as funding uncertainty, they will be doing away with their DEI programming. We write today to share important updates related to programs and central offices that support diversity, equity, and inclusion. They said in a joint statement, conversations about these institutional efforts have been ongoing since at least 2023, and with recent federal executive orders, guidance, and funding cuts bringing urgency to the issue, we are moving forward with changes that will impact our community at the University of Michigan and Michigan Medicine. They added, the university stated its inaugural DEI strategic plan in 2016 and developed a DEI 2.0 strategic plan for 2023 through 2028. Some of the action items for the plan included enhancing international graduate student diversity, enhancing black student representation and experiences, DEI in carbon neutrality and sustainable efforts, and more. The New York Times reported the University of Michigan had spent approximately $250 million on DEI initiatives through last fall. Wow. And Major League Baseball in 2016 announced a slew of diversity initiatives in its corporate hiring practices, eventually incorporating numerous DEI references into its careers website. But thanks to the reelection of Donald Trump, along with the slew of executive actions designed to limit racial discrimination. And as we always said, DEI, we just said there's no forward thinking with these people when it comes to DEI. They don't understand the number of lawsuits, racial discrimination lawsuits, they're going to be filed because of this, because it's blatantly racist. Call it whatever you want. Doesn't matter whether you call it DEI. Even, this was the dumb thing when Mark Cuban, it says diversity, equity, and inclusion. Who would ever be against diversity, equity, and inclusion? Because that's what it says in the title, and therefore that's what it must mean. I'm not actually going to read and comment on the points of DEI that are absolute racial discrimination. I'll just ignore it and play stupid and just say, why would you be against those words? That's what Cuban attempted to do. That didn't work out well. But Eric and I always said this. We said, Trump accelerated it, but the lawsuits itself started moving it back before Trump was even elected. Because DEI is against current federal civil rights law. You can't do it. So MLB is one of the progressive corporations now forced to reevaluate their discriminatory policies. While Commissioner Rob Manfred initially said in February the league's commitment to discrimination under the guise of DEI remained unchanged, by March, its website no longer has references to a diversity pipeline program once proudly celebrated. The Athletic, as part of the left-wing sports media, reached out to Major League Baseball about it. As the commissioner stated, our values on diversity remain unchanged. We are in the process of evaluating our programs for any modification to eligibility criteria that are needed to ensure our programs are compliant with federal law as they continue forward. At the owners' meeting in February, Manfred reportedly told owners that the league is committed to left-wing politics, but also must follow the law. Can't have it both ways. If DEI was really just about diversity, equity, and inclusion, if that's what you were really for, now you'd have to define what equity means. But you can't sit there. You cannot have a concept that was based on critical race theory that says whites are all culturally racist and society must be set up. All society must be set up believing that narrative is true. Well, that right there goes against all civil rights law in this country. And Eric and I said that. We go, they're not going to be able to win this. They can't win this long term, yet they continue to do it. So there you go. There seems to be an evolution going on here, said the commissioner. We're following that very carefully. When things get a little bit more settled, we'll examine each and every one of our programs. So, as you can see, slowly going away. All right, let's get right to it. Elon Musk and staffers, the engineers behind DOGE, did an extensive interview with Bret Baier yesterday. We're going to play this in segments. I'd like to get most of it in here, but it's too long to play in one audio cut. But I want to play it because it's really important. Now, remember, when we talk about DOGE, we love what DOGE is doing. Absolutely love what they're doing. They're looking at what can be cut. They're looking at waste and fraud and things that are discriminatory, that are against civil rights laws, and if you've got money being spent there, it's gone. Now, what Congress decides to do and how much the president will push Congress to actually cut is another story. Rand Paul interviewed yesterday saying, from what I can see in the reconciliation bill and the budgets coming forward here in the next year, they want to increase it another $5 trillion the debt. I don't see the cuts. Where are the cuts? And he said, look, DOGE can do all this stuff, but if Congress and the president doesn't force it through, and we've always given that warning, it's great to do all of this, but if you don't follow through, it's bad. In fact, as I've said, Trump initiating DOGE is one of the gutsiest things I've ever seen a president do on a domestic issue. Because it's tough to win when you're cutting. It just is. It's tough to, when you're taking away things, it's very easily, no matter what you're taking away, when you start cutting, you're going to have the left pounding. And I don't believe that the citizens of the United States, even though they say we're ready to cut, I don't believe they are. And one of the pieces of evidence that I use is the polling. The polling just came out yesterday. Only 1 in 4 Americans want to cut federal funds from NPR and PBS. Only 1 in 4. So if 75% aren't sure or don't want it cut, you are never going to get the budget under control. If people believe that the role of the federal government is to subsidize any media because they happen to like some of the programming that's on it, you are never going to solve the budget problem in this country. But that's not Elon Musk's fault. He's looking for the waste, he and his engineers. So let's start. We'll call this part 1 of the interview with Bret Baier, Elon Musk, and the staffers behind DOGE.
What are the budgetary savings goals, and how much do you think you've achieved so far?
Our goal is to reduce the deficit by $1 trillion. From a nominal deficit of $2 trillion to try to cut the deficit in half to $1 trillion, or looked at it in total federal spending to drop the federal spending from $7 trillion to $6 trillion. We want to reduce the spending by eliminating waste and fraud, reduce the spending by 15%, which seems really quite achievable. The government is not efficient, and there's a lot of waste and fraud. So we feel confident that a 15% reduction can be done without affecting any of the critical government services.
I'm going to talk to all the guys.
If not making it better.
I'm going to talk to all the guys here about the specifics. But for you, what's the most astonishing thing you've found out in this process?
The sheer amount of waste and fraud in the government. It is astonishing. It's mind-blowing. We routinely encounter wastes of $1 billion or more, casually. For example, like the simple survey that was literally 10-question survey that you could do with SurveyMonkey, cost you about $10,000. The government was being charged almost $1 billion for that.
For just the survey?
$1 billion for a simple online survey. Do you like the national park? And then there appeared to be no feedback loop for what would be done with that survey. So the survey would just go into nothing. It was like insane.
You technically are a special government employee, and you're supposed to be 130 days. Are you going to continue past that, or do you think that's what you're going to do? Or?
Well, I think we will have accomplished most of the work required to reduce the deficit by $1 trillion within that time frame.
So in that time frame, 130
yes.
days. And the process is a report at some point, at 100 days? Or?
Not really a report. We are cutting the waste and fraud in real time. So every day that passes, our goal is to reduce the waste and fraud by $4 billion a day, every day, 7 days a week. And so far, we are succeeding.
And I'm going to talk to the specifics, but there obviously are DOGE critics who are reading all kinds of stuff. Obviously, lawmakers on the other side of the aisle are attacking you, and they characterize the approach as this: fire, ready, and then aim. And how do you approach that? How do you respond to that?
Well, I do agree that we actually want to be careful in the cuts. So we want to measure twice, if not thrice, and cut once. Actually, that is our approach. They may characterize it as shooting from the hip, but it is anything but that. which is not to say that we don't make mistakes. If we were to approach this with the standard of making no mistakes at all, that would be like saying someone in baseball's got to bat 1,000. That's impossible. So when we do make mistakes, we correct them quickly, and we move on.
Some people say this shouldn't take a rocket scientist. Steve Davis, you are a rocket scientist.
Used to be.
Yeah, and now essentially you're the chief operating officer of DOGE, day-to-day operations. Fair to say?
Yeah, part of the DOGE team.
So how did you end up here? What's the biggest challenge you see?
The reason I'm here, which is probably for many, is that I think the goal is incredibly inspiring. I think most of the taxpayers in the country would agree that in order to have the country going bankrupt would be a very bad thing, and therefore the country going not bankrupt is a good thing. That all of us are willing to kind of put our lives on hold in order to do. I think the thing that's special right now is we actually believe there's a chance to succeed. That there's an administration that's supportive and a great cabinet and just a great group that will actually make success a possible outcome. And I think that's, given the inspiring mission and given the non-zero chance of success, it was worth doing.
We'll get to more of the interview and more of the staffers. As I said, I believe that what Trump has done is one of the gutsiest things, because it's tough to win when you're cutting. It's tough to get the American public behind you, even though the American public says they want the cuts. When you actually start doing the cuts and you've got the Democrats pounding on everything. In fact, they'll talk about Social Security here in a little bit, because the Democrats pounding DOGE on Social Security, saying, okay, they're making it so old people won't be able to collect or whatever. And they say that's not true. We're trying to get massive efficiencies in that and actually get rid of fraud so we can serve the customer better. But we'll get to all of that. But like I said, it's the most gutsiest thing what the president is doing with DOGE. But if Congress and the president don't push to actually get the cuts, it will be one of the worst things, because we'll never do it. If we don't do it now, we're never going to do it, ever. And as Rand Paul said yesterday, he doesn't see it yet in all the discussions of the reconciliation bill and the budget. He doesn't see it. He doesn't see where they're actually talking about legitimately doing the cuts. And we said this a couple of weeks ago when Elon Musk said we're already cutting $4 billion a day. He's saying that's the goal, to cut $4 billion a day every day. Now, it's a little bit different than what he said a few weeks ago, but Eric and I measured that and said, well, that's $1.45 trillion you say you've cut already without anybody suffering whatsoever. Well, if that's the argument that DOGE is making, that nobody will lose a benefit and we can cut $1 trillion off the budget, and they don't cut anything, and the budget keeps skyrocketing, we'll never do it again. We'll never be able to cut if we don't do it this time. 866-98 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. More of the audio from the DOGE interview coming up following the bottom of the hour. Let's quickly go to you and hang on here. Let me see what we got here. Jordan in Pensacola, Florida. Jordan, welcome. You're on Red Eye Radio. Hi, Jordan.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Good.
Man, I just want to say, like, everything going on with DOGE, we are all in so much support of it here, around the United States, left or right or whatever. So when the Democrats are campaigning, you got AOC and Bernie running around and they're saying, stop the oligarchy, stop the oligarchy. Here's my question. What are they even campaigning for? Because what they are labeling as the oligarchy is leaving politics all on its own in January of 2029. Trump is leaving politics permanently in 2029. So what are they even campaigning for?
Well, that's a question. Who said it the other day that the problem with the Democrats is the half that are vocal are far left, are promoting far left insane things, and the other half of Democrats don't even know where the Democrats stand right now. And that's something that we've talked about. Where do the Democrats stand on every issue when we've brought up where they say one thing and do another consistently? When you look at, for example, when Harris's campaign was to endorse the major tenets of what Trump was promoting, and nobody bought it. And at that time, Democrats were asking what they were about. Well, number one, they're using the whole oligarchy, which is false to begin with. It doesn't even fit the definition of what's going on, because oligarchy is, we went through this a couple of weeks ago and said, all right, they're using the oligarchy. Let's go through this. And oligarchy is a form of government in which the power rests with a small number of people, and these people may be there because of their fame, wealth, whatever, and they're controlling the country. Well, that's not the case here. There is no oligarchy controlling the country. The system of government is exactly the same of what it was last year, the year before, the year before that, the year before that. The president of the United States, irrespective of his wealth and or lack of wealth, is an elected politician, and he can pick aides, whoever they are, to help him do what he wishes to do. So it doesn't even fit the definition of an oligarchy.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And I'm Gary McNamara. He's Eric Harley. He has the morning off. Let's get back to some of the this interview here that Elon Musk and the DOGE, I guess you call them employees, the people actually doing the work and cutting and hearing from them. And as I said, and I'll probably say it every segment that we play more of this audio from an extended interview that was done with Bret Baier, they need to do this. They need to get Elon Musk and have Elon Musk there with everybody there. You cannot I've watched the entire thing. And you know I've been critical of Republicans and of Trump in the past for not communicating effectively. In fact, that accusation still stands on the tariffs. But they have a great opportunity here because what he is doing is really gutsy. Because even though the last caller said, yeah, we're all for the cuts, well, people say they're for the cuts. When the cuts actually happen, let's see, how they are. And as I've said many times, if I'm wrong on that, I will go to the highest mountain. I'll climb up to the roof of the building and say, I was wrong. The people of the United States really wanted to cut. I was wrong. And it won't be like I've been in the past where I've said, I will say the word wrong. I will preach from the mountaintop. I was wrong. The people of the United States wanted to cut. They wanted fiscal sanity. I know everybody's going to hold me to that one, which is okay. That's fine. But just watching this, and if you're hearing it, just in the first segment that I played here, there's no way you sit there and look at it and go, this is bad, and this is evil, and this is immoral, and this is a billionaire oligarch, and so I'm going to stand by the Democrats to get rid of the oligarchy that exists here because I really don't know what an oligarchy is, but it sounds good and it sounds evil. Well, once you actually hear this, you're like, well, that's ridiculous. This is something, and my dad said this a while back with Trump. He said Trump needs to focus on, as my father always said to us, DTJ, do the job. Get the job done, accomplish things. Do that. And I talked to my dad about it, Eric about it, even in the first term, saying he needs to promote in all of his campaigns. We never believed he did it enough. He started doing it more this time, and people sort of figured it out. Oh, wait a minute, he actually gets things done. But we always said he should have been consistently saying, I'm in the construction business. I build things. Democrats destroy things. I build things. He never used that particular thing, but there were a couple of commercials that he had put together that sent that same message out, which we think is good. And that's what I get out of this. These are people trying to solve a problem, and you heard that first representative say, we can't go bankrupt. We can't do that. We cannot become insolvent as a country. We can't. And when you hear these people do it, and it's the tone that they do it in, there's nothing political. When you hear the people doing the work and the people that have volunteered to do this, it's not political. It doesn't come across as political. There isn't over the top rhetoric. Well, unless the amount that they believe that they can cut. But I don't care about that. If they say they can cut $1 trillion, I mean, initially it was $2 trillion. If they say $1 trillion, if they cut $100 billion, I'll be the happiest person in the world, because it's so incredibly hard to actually change the direction of a government that is spending. But here's more of the interview from Brett Barry yesterday with the DOGE team.
I'd just like to sort of reemphasize that point. The success of DOGE is only possible with President Trump and with the outstanding cabinet that he selected. It would be impossible without the support of the president and the cabinet.
But you're finding the money. I mean, it's big numbers, right?
Yeah, like Elon said, the minimum impulse bid is often $1 billion. So, for example, the $830 million, which was the online survey, that's an enormous amount of money that wouldn't have been found if the DOGE team wasn't working with it, in that case, the Department of Interior. But then taking it one step further, DOGE then publishes these things on our website for maximum transparency. So now the general public, it would have been impossible for the general public to have seen that. Now anyone can just log into doge.gov anytime and see these payments. As they're not yet in real time, they're close, but they'll probably be in real time within the next few weeks.
But the process, it still involves Congress, right? At some level?
We try to keep Congress as informed as possible, but the law does say that money needs to be spent correctly. It should not be spent fraudulently or wastefully. It's not contrary to Congress to avoid waste and fraud. It is consistent with the law and consistent with Congress. And we've seen actually great support, at least from the Republican side of the House, and occasionally some Democrats, too. It's nice to see people cross the aisle once in a while. But usually when they attack DOGE, they never attack any of the specifics. So they'll say what we're doing is somehow unconstitutional or illegal or whatever. We're like, well, which line of the cost savings do you disagree with? And they can't point to any. And we list them all on doge.gov and the DOGE handle on X. And you'll see just outrageous things, one outrageous thing after another.
Joe Gabbia, besides Elon, you're one of several billionaires here, co-founder of Airbnb, and you wanted to help out.
I bumped into Anthony and Elon probably back in February, and they told me something about a mine that was dealt with retirement, and they said they needed somebody to help out to fix retirement in the government. I loved the challenge, so I jumped on board, and it turns out there is actually a mine in Pennsylvania that houses every paper document for the retirement process in the government. Now picture this. This giant cave has 22,000 filing cabinets, stacked 10 high to house 400 million pieces of paper. It's a process that started in the 1950s and largely hasn't changed in the last 70 years. And so as you dug into it, we found retirement cases that had so much paper, they had to fit it on a shipping pallet. So the process takes many months, and we're going to make it just many days.
Will it be digitized, or how?
Absolutely. So this will be an online digital process that will take just a few days at most. And I really think, it's an injustice to civil servants who are subjected to these processes that are older than the age of half the people watching your show tonight. So we really believe that the government can have an Apple Store-like experience, beautifully designed, great user experience, modern systems.
Because right now it's by hand.
Yes, the retirement process is all by paper, literally with people carrying paper and manila envelopes into this gigantic mine.
So they can't retire more than a certain number every month?
Yes.
About 8,000 a month.
That's how the reason we discovered it was we were saying, like, well, let's encourage voluntary retirement. They said, well, the most they could do is 8,000 a month. And even under normal circumstances, it can take 6 to 9 months just to have your retirement paperwork processed. And they often get the calculations wrong. So we're like, well, why would it take so long to retire? And they're like, well, because of the mine. And you're like, what do you mean a mine? What's a mine got to do with retiring? And that's where we discovered that all the retirement stuff is still done by paper in a process that looks identical to what occurred in the 1950s. Like if we took a snapshot of the mine when it first started in the 50s to today, it looks the same.
It's amazing. So how long do you think it'll take to turn over?
We're working as fast as we can. Probably next couple of months we'll have this overhauled. And, I really think, again, like, why are we subjecting our federal workers to processes that they actually have to go through a training just to retire from the government? There's a whole training program that people have to go through in order to retire. I think we can do better for them.
Aram Mogadassi, DOGE engineer. You go into these places, one of the more than a dozen engineers, first people to go into the agencies and view the computer data sets. Tell me what you're finding, and for people who don't understand how that process works, explain it for them.
Yeah. I'll say the first thing that got me really excited about DOGE was learning basically the state of government computers. By some estimates, government IT costs about $100 billion, and it's funding systems that are over 50 years old, in the case of something like Social Security or the IRS. So really critical systems are old. They cost a lot of money to maintain, and they can be the efforts to improve them are often very delayed. So I thought I'm a software engineer that maybe can make a difference here, and that's really what inspired me at a high level.
There's a lot of mystery about Social Security and a lot of words about it here's what Democrats have been saying about it.
It's absurd that Elon Musk is trying to eliminate billions of dollars from Social Security.
Elon Musk and President Trump have set their sights on cutting Social Security.
Their goal is clear: destroy Social Security from within.
You're in the building. I mean, you're in the computers. What's happening there? What are you doing?
Yeah, it doesn't line up with my experience on the ground. And I'll say the two improvements that we're trying to make to Social Security are helping people that legitimately get benefits, protect them from fraud that they experience every day on a routine basis, and also make the experience better. And I'll give you one example is at Social Security, one of the first things we learned is that they get phone calls every day of people trying to change direct deposit information. So when you want to change your bank account, you can call Social Security. We learned 40% of the phone calls that they get are from fraudsters.
40%?
That's right. Almost half.
Yes, and they steal people's Social Security is what happens. Is they call in, they say they claim to be a retiree, then they convince the Social Security person on the phone to change where the money's flowing. It actually goes to some fraudster. This is happening all day, every day. And
we'll get to more coming up, but just fascinating watching this, and the imagery is just wonderful. You know, it's funny because the last caller brought up the whole Democrats calling it the oligarchy because, billionaires are involved in it. When you think about it, they're trying to make the case that Elon Musk and Trump and any other billionaire that is there to help with this administration are trying to increase their wealth. Well, you can't make that case. Elon Musk has lost a ton. Trump has lost a ton of money. And you've seen the memes where it's like, I'm not worried about Trump. I'm worried about the people that had no money and have served in public, served the public in Congress for their entire life and are millionaires. How did that happen? Or hundreds of millionaires. How did that happen? But there's another point I wanted to make here. Oh, there's one more point here on the of what they were saying. Oh, yeah, but the whole oligarchy. What you see here, and has anybody noticed how many billionaires aren't just sitting on a desert island doing nothing, a tropical island doing nothing? They could own the island. You notice how they never stop working? The goal of so many of these billionaires was not to become a billionaire. They accomplished things. Elon Musk does not live like the richest man. Is he still the richest man after the last month? I don't know. But he was last month the richest man in the world. Does he live like it? Nope. They're people that work. They have tremendous work ethic, and they want to solve problems. And you see this from a lot of billionaires. Well, then who better to do it? Somebody who wants to work. I want to work. I want to accomplish things. This is a challenge for us. You can sense it. You can feel it from them. We can accomplish this. And if we don't do it now, there may never be a chance to do it again. They even understand the seriousness of that. Little bit different than some of these screaming, cursing Democrat Congress people we have right now. 866-98-RED-EYE.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara, along with Eric Harley, who has the morning off. More of the DOGE interview. It's fascinating, and it's something that they need to do on a consistent basis. Again, I don't know who outside of Fox News and conservative media will do this, but the fact is, anything that could get it wide social media exposure is what you want it to get. So, I mean, I guess if they all went on MSNBC, but I doubt MSNBC is going to want something that makes sense when it comes to what Trump is trying to do. So I don't see that happening. Maybe it could happen on CNN because it's fascinating to watch it. I find it fascinating. The marketing is superb when they all sit down together and Elon Musk is there and they start going to each and every member and saying, okay, what are you doing? And what did you find? And the reason is you look at it and you say the average American, the majority of Americans, 80% of Americans, if we talk 80-20, 80% of Americans would look at that and say, that makes sense, we need to do it. And so, again, they're not Congress, and they know that eventually they're going to need the help from Congress and the president to get everything done through legislation. But the fact is, you hear that, you cannot disagree with what they're doing. Unless, well, if you want fiscal sanity in the country, you can't disagree with it. If you don't want fiscal sanity, then you can disagree with it, I guess.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. We are Red Eye Radio. Eric has a morning off, but he returns for Sunday night, Monday morning show. Before we get back to more of the DOGE interview last night and the actual engineers and people behind Elon Musk and what they're doing, other stories we want to make sure that we cover. Rochester, New York leaders scolded local cops for violating their sanctuary city policies after they responded to a request for backup from Border Patrol agents conducting a traffic stop. Border Patrol asked for emergency police assistance on Monday after pulling over a van with an estimated 8 people inside. Rochester cops responded to the scene with lights and sirens, ordered the suspects out of the vehicle, and helped put them in handcuffs. According to WHAM radio, it was not immediately known why the van was stopped, but the completely routine police response, this is from the New York Post, was enough to raise the anger of Democratic Rochester Mayor Malik Evans, who held a press conference on the incident on Wednesday. Quote, the officers on the scene verbally directed the occupants to get out of the vehicle, and this is against our policy. Our policy is crystal clear. City police officers do not help or participate in federal immigration activities, noting he personally instructed the police chief, David Smith, to remind every member of the force about the policy. Smith, who also spoke at the press conference, threw his officers under the bus for responding to the call, as well as the Border Patrol agents who initiated the stop. From watching the body cameras, what is concerning to me is despite the fact that we were called, we went lights and sirens. I see in the video a total lack of urgency on the part of multiple Border Patrol officers at the scene. Smith then continued admonishing the officers for following standard police procedure. We are not to be handcuffing subjects. We are not to be doing pat frisks on subjects, and we are absolutely not going to be detaining them or putting them into cars. The Rochester Police Club Union issued a press release defending the police actions and calling Evans' statements a complete overreaction to what happened. As with any law enforcement agency that indicates it as a critical situation in progress within the city of Rochester, officers responded under lights and sirens, expecting their fellow law enforcement officers to be in distress when they got there. The union said the occupants of the van, quote, were not complying with the agent's request to exit the vehicle, which they eventually did without resistance when the local cops stepped in to help. The officers on the scene asked no questions of the occupants about their immigration status or relevant documents. No force was used. Once the scene was secured, that ended the Rochester Police Department's involvement in the matter. The mayor's statement today about this incident represents a complete overreaction to what did and did not happen on Monday. The police club members who responded did absolutely nothing wrong other than to answer a call for help from another agency. Rochester's Sanctuary City Resolution was first adopted in 1986, reaffirmed in 2017, according to the outlet. The Rochester Police Department is prohibited under the general order from enforcing federal immigration laws. The officers on the scene said, we weren't involved in that at all. So there you go. That's the craziness. Now, when you talk about federal funds to the city, this is something that I think the Department of Justice should look at and say, all right, this happened. This is the notice that they put. They don't wish to cooperate whatsoever. And so bye-bye federal funds. Take them away. That simple. Take them away. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. They really don't give a damn about their citizens. They really don't. They don't. Democrat. And again, we saw this in the last 4 years with Biden. He didn't care about American citizens. He care less. You know, we go back to 5 years ago. Remember? Nobody could cross the border. You couldn't get back, either way if you're a citizen, the Canadian border, because of the COVID rules and regulations and shots and everything else. And yet they were just letting people across the border and weren't checking them on the southern border. They didn't care about COVID. They could have cared less about Americans getting COVID or Americans dying of COVID. They could care less. One set of rules over here, another set of rules over here. And if you're a citizen, the rules are tougher than if you're not a citizen. Unbelievable. All right, back to the DOGE interview that was done. Brett Baer on Fox News. We've been playing audio of it because it's just excellent. And they need to continue marketing this kind of thing and doing it, I don't know, on a weekly basis, every 2 weeks, weekly basis, whatever. They need to continue doing this because it is great. It's impactful, and Americans will watch this. And this is an 80-20 issue. and you put this out, and Americans are going to go, this is really, really good. You need to keep the impressions. In advertising, impressions are what matter, which means that's why you run more than one commercial ad. You want that impression on a person's brain, and you do this over and over and over and over again so that people then start ignoring what the Democrats are saying because they're like, oh, here they go again, exaggerating, lying, not telling the truth about what DOGE is doing. Let's continue that conversation.
How do you reassure people that what you all are doing is not going to affect their benefits?
No, in fact, what we're doing will help their benefits. Legitimate people, as a result of the work of DOGE, will receive more Social Security, not less. I want to emphasize that. As a result of the work of DOGE, legitimate recipients of Social Security will receive more money, not less money.
All right.
I want to emphasize that point and let the record show that I said this, and it will be proven out to be true. Let's check back on this in the future.
So, Washington Post, the Social Security Administration website crashed 4 times in 10 days this month because the servers were overloaded, blocking millions of retirees and disabled veterans from logging into their online accounts. Freaked people out. Is that going to change?
Yes, we're going to make sure that the website stays online.
Yeah. I mean, but is it a result of going in there or something you're doing?
No. The amount of issues that were with the Social Security system are enormous. As an example, there are over 15 million people that are over the age of 120 that are marked as alive in the Social Security system.
And that's an accurate figure.
Yes. Correct.
15 million.
Correct. This has been something that's been identified as a problem. Again, pre-existing problems since 2008 at least, from an IG report. So there were some great people working at the Social Security Administration that found this, 2008, and nothing was done. And so 15 to 20 million Social Security numbers that were clearly fraudulent were floating around that can be used only for bad intentions. There'd be no way to use those for good intentions. And so one of the things the DOGE team is doing is carefully and very methodically looking at those and making sure that any fraudulent ones are eliminated.
Brad Smith, working at HHS, and obviously another element is Medicare and Medicaid, NIH. What are you finding?
Yeah. Well, I'd say there's a couple things we're really committed to in our work at HHS. Number one, making sure we continue to have the best biomedical research in the world. And number two, making sure, which President Trump has said over and over again, that we 100% protect Medicare and Medicaid. But there's a lot of opportunity. So if I take NIH as an example, today, if you're an NIH researcher and you get a $100 grant at your university, today you get to spend 60 of that and your university spends 40 of that. The policy that we're proposing to make is that you get to spend 85 of that and your university spends 15. So that's more money going directly to the scientists who are discovering new cures. Another example at NIH is today they have 27 different centers. They got created over time by Congress, and they're typically by disease state or body system. There's 700 different IT systems today at NIH.
700 different IT systems.
IT software systems.
They
can't speak to each other.
And so they don't talk to one another.
They have 27 different CIOs. And so when you think about making great medical discoveries, you have to connect the data.
Time out. You said 27 different chief information officers?
Correct.
And most of them are non-technical.
So there's a lot there.
There's a lot of opportunity. It will make science better, not worse.
And when I say that our job is tech support, I really mean it.
Yeah.
We have to fix the computers. If the computers can't talk to each other, you can't get research done. If the computers can't stay online, people won't receive their Social Security. So what we have here are a bunch of failing computer systems that are preventing people from receiving their benefits, that are preventing people from preventing research from happening, that are extremely vulnerable to fraud, and we're fixing it.
And does that include AI? Does that include kind of changing the system overall? That's, I guess, what people are afraid of, is they don't know what this is all looking like, and is it going to affect me in the long term?
It's going to affect them. It's going to affect people very positively. So the changes that we're doing here will ensure the solvency of the American government, of the United States of America. This is what we're trying to do: is ensure that people do receive their benefits in the future. And you can only receive your benefits if the country is operating in a healthy and competent way.
And we'll have more coming up here in just a little bit. That was them cutting in for a commercial break on Fox News yesterday, but we'll have more of the DOGE team there. And again, I reiterate, they have to keep promoting this because this is good. And I'm assuming you would say the same thing just listening to it. I'm watching it as I listen to it, and you get the tone of what they're attempting to do. And what it does, it really destroys any of the arguments of the left. You know, we talked about the fact that, and this goes back a couple of weeks ago, that any mistake that was made, even if it was immediately corrected, was used as by the left as why you can't do it. It's like, yeah, but we corrected it. Yeah, but you made the mistake. And that old saying that perfection is what, the perfection is what keeps you. Arguing perfection is what keeps you from getting anything done. And they explained it there. Yeah, sometimes we have a glitch and we fix it the next day. Now the left goes crazy about it. It's like, well, we fixed it. Yeah, but it shows that you've got problems here and we're trying to fix all the problems. That's what we're trying to do. And what you're saying is if there's one mistake that's temporary for even an hour, the Democrats' argument point is that you must stop completely the goal, which is to make government more efficient with less fraud. One mistake that's corrected should stop the entire movement of finding the waste and fraud in government. That's the argument from the Democrats. Not going to hold water. And so they need to market this over and over and over again. 866-90-RED-I.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on roadside inspections. At a roadside inspection, inspectors may ask to see supporting documents. A supporting document is a document generated or received by a motor carrier in the normal course of business that can be used by law enforcement to verify a driver's logs. These documents can include bills of lading, itineraries, schedules, or equivalent documents that indicate the origin and destination of each trip. They can also include dispatch or trip records, expense receipts related to on-duty/not driving periods, including receipts for meals, lodging, and fuel, electronic mobile communication transmitted through a fleet management system, and payroll records, settlement sheets, or equivalent documents that indicate payment to a driver. Drivers using paper logs must also keep toll receipts. Supporting documents must contain the driver's name, carrier-assigned identification number or vehicle unit number that can be linked to the driver, the date, the name of the nearest city, town, or village, and the time. This tip was brought to you by JJ Keller & Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-I on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Eric has the morning off. Returns for Sunday night, Monday morning's show. We'll have more of the DOGE interview, not just Elon Musk, but the people under him that are working actually in different departments and telling you precisely what they're attempting to do. It's pure greatness. But I want to play this audio cut. This is Rand Paul saying, as we have said, that's all great, but is Congress actually going to cut? Will they actually follow what DOGE is doing, and will they cut? He has his doubts.
I'm very worried that they're wanting to add $5 trillion to the debt ceiling. All the good news we've heard about Elon Musk, about cutting contracts and cutting foreign aid, all that has been so energizing to our base, to conservatives like me. We jump for joy, we cheer. And then they say, well, but the bill's going to increase the debt ceiling by $5 trillion. We say, well, we thought we were cutting spending. Why would we increase it more than $2 trillion a year for the next 2.5 years? And there's not a good explanation. And so I've told them I won't vote for any bill that adds $5 trillion to the deficit. That's not fiscally conservative. Now, I'll vote for the tax cuts. I voted for them in 2017. I'll vote to make the tax cuts permanent. I'll vote for spending cuts. But I didn't vote for the spending, and I'm damn sure not voting for adding $5 trillion to the national debt. I just think that's outrageous.
There you go. Rand Paul yesterday in an interview. But he makes the point that we've been making all along. What they're doing and what the president initiated. Remember, and Eric and I talked about this before the election when they were talking about it. And we went, wow, okay, that's interesting. Nobody was asking during the campaign. It wasn't one of the top issues to cut. The top issues, as we know, were the border and inflation. That was it. Now, they made the case that because of the debt and everything else, that has helped skyrocket inflation over the past 4 years and the spending, and so they were going to cut. But when they talked about DOGE originally, I remember looking at Eric and I went, wow, they're doing something that the public isn't asking for, we believed. And they went forward with it. Now, the public always says they want the cut in spending, but as we've seen in the past, they really don't. And I give more evidence from yesterday when a plurality of Americans want the spending to continue for NPR and PBS, and only 25%, 1 in 4, want public taxpayer dollars to be gone. Now, it doesn't matter whether you feel NPR and PBS are great and you wish to keep funding them. It's the fact that's not the role of the federal government. It's not the role. Taxpayer money should not be funding media. But only 25% of Americans agree with me on that, and agree with you on that probably. And that's a huge problem, because if you say no, and you saw the presidents of both NPR and PBS both say, if you had a choice, fund Social Security or, PBS and NPR, what would you do? And they said, we'd have to do both. That's not the question. Which is most important? They're both important. Well, they're not. And that's the argument that they're making. But if the American public, if only 1 in 4 wants to cut it, we're never going to get the budget under control, ever. We just won't. The public has to realize the federal government can't pay for everything. And so that's my concern in doing, covering the news for over 40 years, is that the public always screams, that debt is bad, but it's not the same passion that you see for other issues when you come down to actually cutting.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And good morning. I'm Gary McNamara. Eric has the morning off. Thank you for being here, as always. Before we get back to more of the DOGE interview, like I said, it was an extensive interview. That's why we're playing it in clips throughout the show. Representative Elise Stefanik of New York is not going to be ambassador to the United Nations. She explained her team player decision to bow out of contention for the U.S. ambassador to shore up the razor-thin majority in the House of Representatives. It was something that we brought up after the election. We went, whoa, Trump, you can't steal too many. Not steal, you know what I mean? You can't take too many from the House. It's razor-thin. Trump announced on Thursday that he had asked Stefanik to bow out of contention. Stefanik added the decision came for a number of reasons, considering a combination of factors since the New York lawmaker's initial nomination following Trump's reelection. Trump detailed his decision to withdraw Stefanik's nomination on Thursday, writing on Truth Social, as we advance our America First agenda, it's essential that we maintain every Republican seat in the House. We must be unified to accomplish our mission and Elise Stefanik has been a vital part of our efforts from the very beginning. I have asked Elise, one of my biggest allies, to remain in Congress to help me deliver historic tax cuts, great jobs, record economic growth, secure border, energy dominance, peace through strength, and much, much more so we can make America great again with a very tight majority. I don't want to take a chance on anyone else running for her seat. The people love Elise, and with her, we have nothing to worry about come Election Day. Stefanik says she looks forward to sharing my voice, as I always have, being one of the top fighters and top allies on behalf of President Trump and the American people. She had been under pressure to take herself out of contention for the role, despite being appearing to sail through in a bipartisan way. CBS News First reported. Sources told CBS News that the House Republicans' razor-thin majority is a major factor in the current considerations, but Fox News Digital was also told that internal politics in Stefanik's home district are at play as well. The reality is, Democrats, as we see in New York, it is totally corrupt. Kathy Hochul started threatening to move the ball on the election date. You see a highly, highly politicized radical left trying to do everything they can to defeat the president, and this is about stepping up as a team, and I'm doing that as a leader to ensure that we can take hold of the mandate and deliver these historic results. New York State's primary structure and the lack of GOP cohesion over choosing a candidate to run in Stefanik's place have led to concerns about a future special election there. Two sources familiar with Empire State politics said. Meanwhile, Republicans have also been concerned that New York Governor Kathy Hochul could seek to slow walk the election, leaving Stefanik's seat open for as long as possible if she ascended to the Trump administration. And, yeah, that was a worry for a lot of people. So right move made there, and it does show that Trump is serious because from everything I can see, he initiated this. It means he's serious. He wants every vote to put through what he wants to put through. So we'll see what Congress comes up with here in reconciliation. All right, let's get back here. We've been playing, in case you just tuned in right now, Bret Baier interviewed the DOGE team, or part of the DOGE team yesterday. Elon Musk was a part of it, and a lot of the people working directly with him giving some just great information as to what they're actually doing. I think this is in part, I think they did this a couple of weeks ago, and I think they ought to continue to do this just to market against the paranoia that Democrats are throwing out there about the DOGE cuts. And this week it was Social Security. Said, no, we're not doing that. Nope, they're wrong. They're wrong. And these aren't politicians. These are all people. These are engineers. These are software people. These are people that go in to change the infrastructure of companies and now want to change the infrastructure of the federal government and make it much, much more efficient, as they were talking about here in the last hour with Social Security and HHS and Medicare and just all the problems that they have and how much more efficient it could be, getting rid of the waste, getting rid of the fraud. So there's actually more money left, more money that can be spent on people that actually need the benefits. Here's more of the interview from last night on Fox News.
Anthony Armstrong, DOGE, Office of Personnel Management, Morgan Stanley banker, M&A guy.
Yeah.
You know money, and this is a lot of money sloshing around.
There's a lot of money sloshing around. There's a lot of money sloshing out the door. And if you look at the federal government and the way the workforce works, it's really a one-way ratchet over decades. So
it's only going up.
It's only going up. You never take it away. So that leaves you with duplicative functions, it leaves you with overstaffing, and it leaves you with functions in the wrong places. So a couple of examples. Duplicative functions. Brad mentioned 27 CIOs. If you had kept going with Brad, he would talk about the communications office. I think you've got 40 distinct communications offices in HHS, right? Yeah.
40?
Yeah, and that's not unusual, by the way. Multiple offices like that.
It's not making anyone healthy.
This is not about the employees there. There's many hardworking, well-meaning people who took these jobs. These jobs were out there. They applied for them. They took them. They're doing what's there. It's just that they're duplicating the effort of 40 offices. So you've got that. You've got overstaffing. A good example of overstaffing would be the IRS has got 1,400 people who are dedicated to provisioning laptops and cell phones. So if you join the IRS, you get a laptop and a cell phone, you're provisioned. So if each of those IRS officers or employees provisioned 2 employees per day, you could provision the entire IRS in a little more than a month. So 12 times a year, you can re-provision.
Why would you have 1,400 people whose only job it is to give out a laptop and a phone?
Right. The whole IRS could be handled once a month. So that doesn't make any sense. And President Trump's been very clear: it's scalpel, not hatchet, and that's the way it's getting done. And then once those decisions are made, there's a very heavy focus on being generous, being caring, being compassionate, and treating everyone with dignity and respect. And if you look at how people have started to leave the government, it is largely through voluntary means. There's voluntary early retirement, there's voluntary separation payments. We put in place deferred resignation, the 8-month severance program. So there's a very heavy bias towards programs that are long dated, that are generous, that allow people to exit and go and get a new job in the private sector. And you've heard a lot of news about RIFs, about people getting fired. At this moment in time, less than 0.15, not 1.5, less than 0.15 of the federal workforce has actually been given a RIF notice. So
they're selected if they're leaving.
It is
basically almost no one's gotten fired. That's what we're saying.
Tom Krause, working at Treasury, you are having access to the payment system, oversees all the outgoing payments. Essentially, those payments were going places we didn't know where they were going, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the case, Brett. As an ex-CFO of a big public tech company, really what we're doing is we're applying public company standards to the federal government. And it is alarming how the financial operations and financial management is set up today. There is actually really only one bank account that's used to disperse all monies that go out of the federal government.
Time out. One bank account.
It's a big one.
It's a big one.
It's a big one.
It's a big one. A couple weeks ago, it had $800 billion in it, but it's the Treasury General account. So when you hear, some of my colleagues here, what they're talking about in terms of the fraud, you have to ask, well, why is this allowed to happen at a financial level? Well, it's actually quite simple but alarming. The Treasury, up until now, and thanks to President Trump, we're fixing this. In fact, there was an executive order that he just signed the other day, which is protecting America's bank account, because it really is the taxpayers' money. One, we're changing the culture. The culture is been not a lot of caring and not a lot of commitment to doing what's right relative to financial operations. There's a $500 billion of fraud every year. There's hundreds of billions of dollars of improper payments, and we can't pass an audit. The consolidated financial report is produced by Treasury, and we cannot pass it on. We have material weaknesses. What that means is that if I was a public company CFO, I would effectively be removed. I couldn't file financial statements. I couldn't issue securities, which of course we depend on. Can't pass an audit.
Right. The federal government cannot pass an audit. It's impossible. In fact, in order to pass an audit, you need the information necessary to pass an audit. You need to have the payment codes, you need to have the payment explanation, and you need to have a person you can contact to understand why that payment was made. None of those things were mandatory until just recently, just a few weeks ago. In fact, maybe last week?
Yeah. We're serving 580 plus agencies. And up until very recently, effectively they could say make the payment and Treasury just sent it out as fast as possible. No verification. And so what we're doing is what any household would do. But imagine you're a household, you have a bank account, everyone has an ATM card connected to that account, everyone has a checkbook connected to that account. It's not just your children, it's not just your parents, it's your in-laws, it's your extended family, and they all can go to the account and disperse funds. No questions asked, no justification, no verification.
Wow. Just amazing. We'll have more of that coming up following the top of the hour. The DOGE team, I'm telling you, they need to make sure that this thing gets as much widespread, gets sent everywhere, because this is excellent. This is excellent. There's no way that any American citizen looks at this, except if you're brainwashed, and doesn't say, wow, this is wonderful that they're doing this, because they're explaining not just in general terms, and this is why this is so beautiful. They're going into the minutia of it and saying, here's what's going on. And anybody who has a household budget or who runs a small business or is in business hears this and says, you got to be kidding me. Well, stop that. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. And you're not talking about politicians with rhetoric, with the normal political rhetoric. What you're talking about in this case here, and that's why at times when it ends, I'm like, because I'm mesmerized by this. This is just great. This is exactly what you want when you analyze what's going on in government. These are people that are problem solvers, and they come across as problem solvers, and it's exactly what the American people have said they want. They said they want waste and fraud gone. They're telling you we believe we can get to $1 trillion in just waste and fraud. And when they explain it the way they have, and we've been playing a couple of audio cuts every hour for the entire show, there's no way you can't be listening to that and say, that's really good. You're right. We've got to cut that. Well, that's ridiculous. Why are we doing it? And it's not just the outrageous. They really haven't brought up a ton of the outrageous spending out there, the wasteful spending on dumb things, woke stuff. They're talking about in this, so much of it, and Alan, I know you've been watching it too, they're talking so much about the actual infrastructure, how the business is run is so incredibly inefficient and set up for fraud. It's exactly what the American people need to hear, and I believe they want to hear it. Now, can we get the actual cuts done with Congress? And will it show up in the next couple of years? That's the big question. 866-90-RED-I.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-I.
It's Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. Eric has the morning off, but he returns for Sunday night, Monday morning show. So be there for that. We got lots to talk about coming up next week. Just looking here at a picture of 7.7 magnitude earthquake in Thailand. It's funny because I just happened to go on social media, and somebody I know just arrived there as the earthquake hit. But there's one picture of, you're like, what in the world's going on with that building? There must be a pool up like on the 50th floor of this building, and it's shaking so hard that the water, this is from the ground level, is coming out, and you see all this water dropping to the ground. That's how much the building is shaking. So we'll keep you updated on that. Plus, coming up following the top of the hour, more of the interview with the DOGE team, the engineers, the software people, the CEOs that are involved in streamlining what they view as is just an enormously wasteful government infrastructure.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.